Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus. With his co-host, the fastest netter in the West, John Chakalis, and Zac the Pool Boy Nicklas.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first Pool Nation live podcast. And today with myself, your host, Edgar De Jesus. And I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, guys, and John Chakalis, the fastest netter in the West, and Zac the Pool Boy Nicklas. I want to welcome everybody to our first podcast live. And we're excited to have everybody join us on this journey. And in this podcast, we're going to talk about pool talk. We ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. Hey, John, how are you doing today?
Hey, Edgar, I'm doing well, brother. Doing well. Super excited to be a part of this. I grew up listening to anything and everything available to us in the industry, as far as like podcasts and audiobooks and watching videos. Doing the Pool Guy podcast show, Pool Chasers, Ask the Pool Guy, 15-Minute Pools, Chlorine King, UPA, Ask the Masters. All these podcasts and all these pioneers that kind of came out and gave us this information, stuff for us to listen to. I'm super grateful and super excited to be a part of something, to be able to help, just one struggling entrepreneur or to help one seasoned vet get through the day a little bit easier is going to be an honor. So super excited.
Hey, well, we're glad to have you on here, and we're going to take. We're definitely going to talk about your story here. Zac, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning, everybody. Super stoked to be here today. John's introduction is a little tough to follow, but the same thing. I'm just really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. And if there's some perspective or something I could say to help someone out there, I'm just really thankful to have that opportunity. Super stoked to be here.
So yeah, guys, for those of you that are listening, we had a little bit of a rough night last night. So we were trying to play with this Podbean and kind of get this thing going for the live, because we're really excited that it's live and people can call in and all that kind of stuff. And so as we kind of started playing with it last night, we started having some issues. And to the point that we kind of thought, wow, are we going to have to cancel this and kind of figure this thing out? And so it really was interesting to kind of fight through it, to kind of, hit it up and go through there. And two things, and it's funny because we'll talk about this in today's podcast, is, we're sitting there kind of trying to do the logical thing is, do we wait? Do we make sure that we put a good product out? And both of you, John, from your side, you're kind of looking at it and digging deep, and Zac, you're just going, nope, we're going to figure this out. We're just going to keep figuring it out. So we kind of kept pushing through, guys, and we were able to figure all those things out and come on live today. So we were really stoked to be able to come on, and a little stressed, I think, last night, right, guys?
Oh, yeah. To say the least, we came very close to not being able to do it, but we were on the phone for hours and we worked through it all, and it was pretty awesome, pretty excited.
Yes, and I want to also give a shout out there to Mama Flawless. I know she jumped on there and helped us. Mike from Salmon Pools also came on, and Dylan from Dylan's Pool is just trying to help us figure it all out. So we're excited to be here, guys, and I'm really thrilled for this podcast, and hopefully this will be one of many. And in this first podcast, what I want to do, guys, is I want everybody to know our backgrounds, right? How we started in the pool industry and why we want to do this podcast. And I want our podcast to be a little bit different. This is why we chose the live podcast, right? It's a little bit more nerve-wracking because it's live, and you don't have the chance to edit it and kind of clean it up. It is what it is. So with that said, guys, if you call in, you have a 99.9% chance that you're going to be on that podcast. So that's your disclaimer for you. You call in, you're going to be on the podcast, because once we're done, we're going to post it to Spotify, Google, Apple, all those. So if you can't listen to it live, don't worry about it. We are going to post it, but the disclaimer stands, right? If you're on, you're on. So, guys, one of the reasons I was really excited you said yes is because I think that each one of you bring an amazing aspect to the industry. And Zac, you have that one thing that I keep pushing the pool guys out there to do, and that's that they need to think as entrepreneurs, as business owners, and really not just think of themselves as just pool guys. You're a business, you're an entrepreneur, and you're constantly looking at your pool company, right? The pool boys, and even talking to you last night, it's about the pool boys. It's not about one person. It's about the company, the image, and you're always thinking in that mindset. And even when I talk to you, and we're just kind of doing the pool talk, you push those buttons, even to me, to go, man, I got to keep thinking bigger. I got to keep thinking bigger, and not just thinking bigger, but even from the business standpoint, what things can I streamline, to make that easier? And I'll give you an example. And I learned this, having you on the lives on Instagram. And that was, we talked about the auto pay. And so you were, very straightforward with it, which is, it makes total sense. You put everybody on auto pay. I'll pay the 2%. I don't care, but it's going to take a big headache away from that billing. And that's one of the things that I still till this day remember. And I kind of kick myself in the butt. And I'm like, man, I spent so many hours and so much of a headache just because I was in that mindset that I didn't want to pay, right? I didn't want to pay that 2%, but then I did the math and it was like, man, what a boneheaded idea. I would have been so much more stress-free. And so you have that knack that you bring into the business, and it's a fresh breath air, because it's what I keep pushing to all the pool guys and everybody that I talk to out there. And you, John, you have an ability, man, to grab topics and drill down so deep. And so I've known that since day one, since we've talked about. I didn't know why you have that trait in your personality. And even last night when we're trying to figure out this whole mess with this live thing, and I found out really kind of how you started in pools. It all makes sense, right? Because you grab these topics and you dig so deep into the topic, and then you're able to just lay it out. Like, you can take it, process it, and you process the hard information, and then you're able to spit it out just so easily for everybody to understand. And for example, I did the borate thing with you, and I've never used borates before, and I spent 3 weeks, dude. I spent tons of hours preparing for this live, and I thought I knew everything. I thought I was ready, and I kind of had my idea of how I was going to talk about these borates and all that kind of stuff. I brought you on to the live. You started talking about borates, and I just went to school. Right. I was just a student sitting in there, and you were able to break everything down so easily. And I think that's one of the big things for our industry, is really being able to get those new pool guys and breaking all the information down when you're new to be able to intake it. Right. Because we take a lot of information at the beginning, and it takes, 10 times for you to be able to process the same information over and over again. And one of your things is, you just have that big natural ability. So I want the guys to get to know each one of you guys, your background, how we started. The other thing that I want to do on this podcast, which is going to be a little bit different, is we're going to allow people to call in. So we'll try to leave a little bit of time so people can call in. And it's one of the things that I love about the Instagram Live is you can see people, you can talk to people, but you get a lot more messages on that platform than you do being able to talk. And so I love when we can kind of get out there and, talk to the pool guys and talk to the pool girls, and kind of bring them and have that pool conversation. So,
yeah, especially when we talk about pool girls, we're going to have to do some episodes dedicated to the pool girls out there. They're going to rule the industry soon. And I'm a little biased because, one, I'm pretty lucky. And we talk about Mama Flawless on there. She's my wife, and she does about 60 pools on our route, and she's been doing it now for about 1.5 years. And I got to tell you, having her on my team, doing pools and taking care of our customers has been such a blessing. And, people underestimate a woman sometimes and think that they can't hang with it, but I'm telling you, she can hang with the best of them. And to be honest, she probably does a better job than I do.
I think we all know that, Zac, right?
Yeah, we all know that, right? Trust me.
So, there's a lot of great pool girls out there, and I'm a big fan of them being in our industry. It just kind of breaks it up and it makes it different. And I do get the chance to talk to a couple of them, and that's awesome. And I agree. I think we're going to have to do some episodes and have some of those pool girls that rock out there and kind of, get their stories, because we always get to hear our stories, but I want to get their perspective on it. So guys, before we get started and get into your stories, there's one thing that I wanted to mention, and that is that Taylor Technology. So Wayne was on our Instagram Live, and he does these round of webinars. And so on the 8th of September, he starts a new round of webinars. And I'm a huge fan of his training, because I think he has that ability to kind of explain things and break them down so that we can really learn. And so the first webinar is September 8th, and that's sanitation and oxidation. And it's a great one, guys. Even if you've been in the industry for a while, go to it. It really breaks up those two processes down. They have, I think, like 8 or 9 classes, but 4 of them, if you take those 4, you get a certificate. So what you're going to want to do is go to Taylor Technologies, go to the Resource Center, and then you can click on Training Seminars. And once you click on the little blue link for the class, it'll ask you to enter your name and your email, and then it'll register for that class. So I really recommend that you do that. You can also go to their Instagram page, to Taylor Technologies, and message them. And Tori manages that page, and she's phenomenal. So guys, make sure if you're starting in the industry, take those classes. They're really going to help a lot. So the other thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to thank the Ultimate Pool Pull for reaching out to us. And guys, they sponsored our first podcast. So thanks. And we'll be playing some of their clips a little bit later. So guys, I think let's get started. I think I want the listeners to know about each one of our journeys and our backgrounds into our industry. And we have all different stories, but I think they're all similar, that, we started small and we made a mission to grow our companies. And Zac, your story is really interesting, because normally pool guys start by cleaning pools, and then they get out and they start to learn how to do repairs. But you went backwards. You started doing repairs. You got together with Justin, and what I want to do is I want to get your story for the guys out there, to encourage them. Talk about start when it was just you and Justin, man. Maybe that beat up pickup truck, and those times that you thought you weren't going to be able to make it, and then all of a sudden, boom, that journey takes off, and here's the Pool Boys.
Right. Yeah. So we did do it backwards, and that's just kind of because of how it all came together. So Justin and I grew up together in North Idaho, and he had moved down here, and he had gotten a job for a pool company, and he went to their repair division. So he immediately started learning all the repairs, installs, things like that. And they did a lot of subcontracting for home warranty companies. So I followed him down here to Houston several years later. I immediately got a job cleaning pools for one of my now competitors, and just started trying to learn everything I could about swimming pools, the operation of the equipment, the maintenance itself. And so I did that for about 6 months or so. And Justin's job, where he was working, they actually closed down. They just, one day they didn't call him for work, and that was it. He never got his last paycheck, never heard from them again. And it was at that point that we decided, hey, let's get together and start our own thing. So not having any money, and he had that experience dealing with home warranty companies, we immediately went and subcontracted with home warranty companies, because we couldn't pay for advertising or marketing. And what that allowed us to do is they would send us work orders. So we would get an email, and we'd go out to that call and go with the warranty company, and they would get us paid for that. So it just kind of stemmed from that. And so it was definitely a long journey. They had us running all over Houston. I'm talking 2 hours north, all the way out in the boonies and back, and very little pay. And so we went that route for a very long time, and we didn't know much, honestly. We didn't know anything about running a business or what we were doing. We had cash coming through, so we thought we were doing it, but we weren't making anything at that time. And then eventually it started to click, like, hey, all this driving, all this window time, they're always beating you up about price and everything. Like, let's take a look at these numbers and see what's really going on. We started to figure it out from there. And then, I met our web guy through doing work for him, and he offered to do a website. And so we did a trade and everything. And that's where it really started for us, was working with our web guy, getting that website on there, getting our name out on the web. And then we started to generate those organic calls, and it just kind of snowballed from that.
So at what point do you go, so you're doing repairs, you're kind of going backwards. At what point do you start doing pools? Because it was only repairs.
So that was, so the route started I started a route in 2015, and I was not good at managing and running my route at that point. It was just a little early for me. So we would get asked all the time. We'd go out to this warranty call to do this repair. Hey, do you do pool service? And we said, you know what? I'll start cleaning the pools. Justin, you worry about the repairs. So we built a route. It was so much to handle by myself and everything. So we ended up getting rid of the route and going back to repairs. And so it wasn't until 2018 when my wife, Leslie, was like, this is stupid. Like, the number one call we get is for maintenance. Like, we need to start doing maintenance. And so we, designed the service and put it into play in April of 2018.
That's amazing. And so, I look at you now, and you got, this big company, the Pool Boys, and you've done a phenomenal job. And even kind of sharing war stories with you, you've done an amazing job at creating that image for the Pool Boys, and that professionalism and everything. Just, I don't think I've ever seen you once where you're not wearing your uniform and your hat, and you just totally embody that, right?
Right.
And John, I don't know if you've ever seen him out of that uniform. I'll call him and say, hey, can you send me a little video? And it's a Sunday, and all of a sudden I get a video from him in the uniform. I'm like, damn, that is the Pool Boy right there. So you kind of go through the transition, and now you're servicing some pools. I look at your fleet of trucks now. What was it like to get that first truck and that first, wrap on that truck? And then the other thing is, does it ever get old?
So it was really exciting and really scary at the same time. Like, it was so awesome to, get that wrap out there, and just, it's kind of like, wow, that turned out awesome. That looks awesome. We're going to look good on the road. But at the same time, it's like, okay, now we're going to start putting people in vehicles, and that is scary in itself. So it's kind of a love-hate relationship, but it doesn't ever get old. Like, every time we get a new vehicle, it's just so exciting to me. And every time we pick it up from the graphics company, it's awesome. It's an awesome feeling.
That's awesome. And I go back to mine and remember getting my first guy and, buying that first truck. And it's such an amazing feeling. What made you kind of come up with the concept? Because, most pool companies just kind of go through the transition, but, what have you done where you've kind of organized it a little bit more? Because I know now you have how many guys? You have 10 guys?
Yeah, there's 10 of us.
And so do they all do service? Do they all do repair? How does the team break down?
So right now we have Justin is doing all repairs and installs. We actually, our other technician just went to SEP, which is awesome to me, because I'm always talking to everyone here about, like, this is where it starts, right? You don't know where it's going to lead, but this industry has so much opportunity, whether that's going to a distributor, a manufacturer, another pool company, starting your own pool company. There's just so many places this could go. But so currently we have Justin doing all of our installs and repairs. I've got Leslie and Leah in the office. I've got Nathan, Max, Kyle, Alec, Isaac doing maintenance. And Max, I think I saw him join in here. Max is actually are doing swing work right now. So he does, like, our return trips, our callbacks, filter cleans, minor repairs, things like that. So it's very important for us to have that position, because it allows the maintenance techs to focus on the maintenance. And when the problems come, Max can go out and dig a little deeper and try to figure that out. And then I have Aaron, who's currently training to be more of a maintenance manager role, to kind of coordinate all of that. And if I missed anyone, I apologize, guys, if you're listening, but that should about cover it.
Yeah. And so I think it's really important as you grow in a company to really kind of constantly reassess what those positions are going to be. And one of the huge things that you did was obviously setting an office presence. And I know that you're in the process right now of moving to a new office, and that's kind of exciting. And it looks awesome, by the way. So congratulations on that. But I think it's very key, especially now in this day and age with pool companies, that there's a lot of concern with consumers out there about pool guys, and they show up one week and then they're not there the next week. And I even got some stories this week of, a buddy of mine that's kind of doing pools, and he knew who the other person was and they just kind of stopped showing up. And so people kind of want that reassurance that the pool company is going to be there. And I think you've done a great job at doing and developing your company and putting somebody to answer the phones and be there, constantly.
Right. And that's it's super important. And that's one thing that you have to, as you're working towards that, you have to get it in the customer's mind when you're talking about your service. Like, you have to be able to afford that. And so these customers that they want to pay the cheapest rate possible, either they need to pay what you're asking so that you can be able to support them. That's what it's all about, is being able to support them. If they call, we have someone who's going to take that call and help them out. And they just don't oftentimes realize that it's that way. So sometimes you just got to break it down to them from a different perspective, and it makes a lot more sense to them why they're spending more money.
That's awesome. And I think we're going to be able to steal so much valuable information from you on these podcasts, because you really kind of push that envelope, and that's kind of exciting to me, especially for guys. If you're brand new starting and you're out there by yourself, always think big picture. Always think big picture. I remember when I started, I had 50 pools, and then to be able to make that journey to 250, it's a long trek, and it's a hard one, right? Nobody ever talks about the hard parts. Everybody just kind of always talks about, and this is where I'm at now. But, that trajectory is a hard one, and it's not something that happens overnight. But I think that, for that new pool guy, if you're constantly thinking big picture, if you're constantly analyzing things kind of like Zac does, you're really going to put yourself in a great position to stand out in this industry. So, John, yours is super interesting, and I didn't know the full of it, and I don't think Zac did either till we got started talking about it last night. And while we're trying to figure out this headache that we had going on, and you kind of really took some time before you got into the swimming pool industry. So, what was your trajectory? How did you, where did you come from, and how did you get into the pool business?
All right. Well, I'll be the first to tell you that if you asked me about 10 years ago where I'd be today, the last place, literally probably the last place that I thought I'd be would be in the pool industry or running my own pool service company. It's funny how life works and where it takes you. So if we're going to kind of get into my story, here it goes. And I want to kind of give details from the beginning so I can kind of let you know who I am, where I came from, and kind of how I reached this destination in my life so far. So about 10 years ago, I started working as a part-time employee. Well, about 10 years ago, about 15 years ago, as a part-time employee over at one of the largest retail chains in America. I was working two jobs. I was working at a restaurant. I was working at this retail place from 9 to 5, going from 5:30 to midnight at a restaurant, and then going to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, driving 2 hours to go to school to further my education. Because I left home when I was about 18 years old. My father passed away when I was 16. Kind of had like an interesting little life right there. But I left as soon as I was 18. Worked two jobs, went to school full time. And was working at this retail place, and I slowly moved myself up to where I became management, and I started running stores for this company, and I was in charge of about 250 employees, about $30 million worth of business, had about 30 supervisors that worked for me. I had 6 full-time managers that worked for me, so I was all retail, and my drive and my destination and my trajectory was going into the corporate world and sales and that. And then one day, I kind of sat back. I have 4 kids, and I kind of sat back and I said, hey, look, looked at my life. We had all the wonderful, beautiful things. And at the end of the day, every time I got home, I just wasn't happy. I was missing something. We were making a good living. I was working 80 hours a week, 7 days, 80 hours a week, 7 days a week. And I would come home and I just kind of felt empty. So we made a big decision together as a family that I would step away from the retail world and doing what I was doing, and to take a step back, focus a little bit more on my family, and to maybe go into a different portion of retail, not so much the front end, but the back end. So we got into wholesale. My wife and I started working for a company that we built up, which was wholesale, the people that stores buy from the back end, and we manufactured products and sold them to like Walgreens and to Best Buys and to other retailers. And we did that for about 7 years, and we built this company up to $1 million, about $2 million company, working for another individual. But it ended up being, we ended up getting back into kind of the same position I was originally, where, I'm working 80 hours a week. It just kind of wasn't cutting it, and I wasn't feeling it. Life at home was kind of, tough. You worked all the time, you got home, you're tired, and it just wasn't for me. And one day, Mama and I call my wife, Janie, Mama, we're driving, and we're figuring out, babe, we need to do something. We got to figure something out. You know what I mean? This isn't the life. My kids are growing up, and I'm not a part of their life, and we gotta figure something out. And I said, what can we do? I don't want to work for anybody anymore. I want to work for myself. So we drove around. We're looking at different cars and different businesses, and one of the first things we saw was a pull truck. And to be honest, I never even paid attention to pull service guys or pull trucks. And I saw one. I go, oh, maybe we can start our own pull service company. And Janie laughed. And then we were driving a little bit more, and I saw another pull truck. And then we were driving home, and this is literally like a 10-minute drive, and we saw about 15 different pull trucks. And I said, okay, well, let me go home. And I said, I'm going to do a little bit of research. And I started looking into it and trying to figure out, okay, if this is something that I can do. And then I said, okay, well, I'm just going to make this happen, Mama. I told her, and she's like, nah, you're kidding. There's no way we're going to go. How are you going to do a pull guy? You know what I mean? You've never done that before. You're into sales and stuff like that. And I go, well, I think there's an opportunity out here. Where we live per capita, we have more pools than anywhere else in the country. And, to start off and to do some kind of on the side and still be able to do the business that we're doing right now. I'm like, okay, well, I think I can figure this out. So this was in 2016. So I sat down and I said, all right, I'm going to do this. And we started our company, J&J Flawless Pulls. And I started researching and learning and doing everything I possibly can to absorb and get information on it, because I knew absolutely nothing about pools. I knew nothing about anything. I was handy. I knew how to fix things. I knew how to do things. But as far as working on pools, electrical pumps, stuff like that, no idea, completely green. So for 1 year, I literally worked my day job. And then when I got home at 5 o'clock at night, I stayed up till about midnight every night for 1 year, learning and absorbing everything I possibly could when it came down to learning about pools. And I give a lot of credit to David Van Brunt. The YouTube guy had literally thousands. I've watched all of them probably about 30 times. And I sat and I watched them all. I learned about CPO certifications. I got my CPO certification, my CPI certification. I got AST, the Advanced Service Tech. Everything I could possibly do to learn about pools, I learned about, as far as chemistry and Bob Lowry. And I finally told Janie, I go, look, okay, we're ready to launch our website that we had and that I built. We're ready to get on Yelp. We're ready to get on Google, and we're ready to start taking our first customer. And in 2017, we took on our first client, and it was kind of downhill from there. Or it was all downhill from there. And then now we're up to about 125 pools. We have 2 trucks. Janie and I are doing what we're doing, and the journey that I've had was being able to transition between Booksmart and street smart. It's one thing to learn about chemistry. It's one thing to learn about repairs. It's one thing to learn about this and that. And it's another thing to actually apply it in the field and know what to do. And it's been quite the journey. But the one thing that I wanted and needed the most was somebody to be there for me, to help me, because when we first started, I had nobody. There's nobody to talk to. Everybody that I went to try to talk to ignored me. We went to do our IPSA chapter. Jeannie did she did some research, and we found our IPSA chapter. We went there, tried to be a part of this association, and we were kicked out. We're like, oh, you guys don't belong here. You haven't been in the industry long enough. You can't be here. So we persisted, and finally got a hold of Gary, who was one of the only people that helped me out at the beginning. And he brought me out with him, and we did. I ran the route with him for about for a day, about 13 pools for each day for a week, and then, like I said, it was all just downhill from there.
And so that's really interesting, because you go out and you learn for an entire year about all this industry before you even take on the first customer, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm a little OCD and a little crazy like that. In sales, you have to be really confident. When you're trying to land an account, or when you're speaking to somebody about something, or you're trying to sell them. I look at pools, not only just cleaning pools, but I looked at it holistically. Look, there's a lot more money that's involved in that. If we're really good at what we do, you have the opportunity to be very successful at it. And in sales, in order to be successful in sales, you have to be confident. In order to be confident, you have to have knowledge and understand what you're talking about and who you're talking to. So if I can't have that, if I didn't feel confident about it, I felt that I'd set myself up for failure. So I knew that I needed to do everything I possibly could to learn everything I possibly could before I got there. And I still don't know everything, and I'm not even close to knowing everything, and I'm learning every single day. And it's just one of my things. I'm just really, really anal when it comes down to that kind of stuff.
And talking to you just makes total sense, especially with you grasping the content and breaking it down. And I tend to be complete opposite. I tend to be one of those where I'm like, I want to do this, and then I kind of jump all in. And I think along the way, I kind of have to figure out all these other hats, and then I grab that one topic. And so in having to learn how to do sales, I've always been a terrible salesperson, right? I can talk to people, and I can have conversations. But if you were to say, hey, Edgar, go sell this pen to that guy over there, I'd be fired within 2 minutes, because I just don't have that natural sales ability to go and do that. And so, but I tend to be one of those where if I'm going to try something, I don't think about it, because if I think about it too much, then I'm going to talk myself out of it. Mm-hmm. And so it's really interesting looking at that angle. And doing pools, I think sales is such a big part that nobody looks at, and the average pool guy doesn't look at becoming strong at selling things, right? And grabbing a book and selling and learning. And that's one of the things that I had to do. I had to grab a book, and trust me, I'm still terrible at selling, but at least I know what I'm talking about. And I was able to transition exactly what you were saying, which was, I'm going to take all this knowledge, and because I have all this knowledge, I can share that knowledge, and that comes across to that customer as confidence. And then they're like, I want this guy. So I'm still not good at sales. I'm still not good at saying, hey, this pen is the best pen, and it has, X type of ink, and it's never going to run out of ink. And do you want to buy it? Right. People are like, right. No, you don't know how to sell, But go ahead, Zach.
I want to interject. Like, what I love about your story is that's a whole nother level of discipline. And that's super impressive to me, because I'm the type of person, I have discipline in other ways, but I'm the type of person to stick to it that long, knowing the end goal. Like, you had your end goal, you knew where you were headed and how you were going to get there. I mean, the average person is going to fall off, a couple months into that learning and dedication, when you're not getting a return at that point, right? And you just continue to keep putting in and trying to learn until you were ready to go out and start it off right. And I admire that a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Zach.
And I think, because I think the average person kind of gets into a business and they think that they're going to make a certain amount of money. And I think we're all like that. We're all very optimistic, right? We all say, oh, I'm going to make, $1 million by the end of the year. And then reality slaps you in the face, right? Like you don't achieve that goal. So, it's very impressive that you did sit there for an entire year to just learn about the industry before you even got into it. Because it's like, normally people start to invest their time, but not to see a return kind of will grab at least me as a person and kind of deflate me and start to make me question,
Exactly.
did I make the right choice? Is this the right path that I need to take?
For sure. When kind of like what you talked about, I approached the pool business as sales. I didn't really look at it as like a service industry. I looked at it almost as like, I viewed it as like selling. You're selling yourself, you're selling your company, you're selling your service, you're selling products, you're selling knowledge, and I approached that way. And like I said before, if you're not confident, and you lack that confidence, it's gonna reek, and people are gonna see it, and your customers are gonna see it, and they're not gonna trust you and believe you. And I knew I had one chance. You start a company, and if you start off wrong, and you get a bad reputation, or you get a bad review, or you get something that it can really hurt what you're trying to accomplish. So I was just really, really paranoid, and I just wanted to make sure I was really comfortable in doing what I was doing, because I had no clue when I took on that first pool. I knew all this wonderful chemistry stuff, and I had all the great tools and all the latest gadgets, and I hit my first pool, and I'm like, what the hell, right? Or my first filter clean. It's one thing watching them doing it on the video, right? And it's one thing actually doing it. It's a completely different thing, right? So it's like that transition between like, okay, I know how to do it. Now it's applying, how do I do it, or why am I doing it this way? So it's been quite the journey, but it's been fun, and we organically grew. Every single pool that we've gotten has been from referrals or from our website or from, just doing good work, or from our trucks. We haven't spent one penny in advertising, and we built it slow that way. And I think that's how it helped me, because I was able to slowly, every pool we got a little bit more confident, and I understood it. When I first did pools, I mean, literally, my first account, I was probably there for like 3 hours, every single day. And that's not even a joke. I am so serious. And I remember my first client telling me, he's all, man, you put a lot of time into this pool. You know what I mean? He's all, man, you've got such dedication. And he's all, how do you find time to do all this? And I go, well, we want to make sure we take good care of you, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But I'm literally there every day, for like 3 hours, just making sure this pool's absolutely perfect. But it was fun times. We'll get into some of the stories, because I got a lot of them.
Yeah, no, I remember, guys. I remember starting and having no experience. And my wife almost divorced me, right? Because I come in from the hotel industry wearing a suit and tie every day and, doing all this stuff. And I tell her I'm going to do pools. And she's like, you can't even change a light bulb, and you're going to go do repairs, and you're going to be into a business where you depend on doing repairs. And I'm like, I'm going to do it, right? And that's my personality. My personality is I really want to do something, I'm going to jump in. And so I bit the bullet and I did it. She was really upset with me. But I remember starting to do pools, and I used to have this one house that was surrounded by trees, just like it was like a forest. And they were doing renovation to the house, so there was nobody ever there. And my netting skills were terrible, and I didn't have a hammerhead back then or a riptide. So I had to do everything with the net, and we used to get those big Santa Ana winds that would kill, and I'd come home and she'd, rub my arms and my hands, because my hands would cramp in the middle of the night. But what I used to do is I used to leave that pool for the last pool on the route. And what I would do is I would get there, and that thing would be covered on the top and on the bottom. And I would grab that pool, and there was nobody there. So I'm like, nobody's going to know whether I'm good or not. And I would just sit there and practice my netting skills, and trying to get all that stuff from the bottom without making that big mess and without making the soup, right? Because you start netting that stuff and then you make this big, huge mess.
Right.
And then I'd go out and I'd be teaching my guys, and they're like, man, how come your netting skills are so good? How come you do that and it doesn't make a mess? And it's like, guys, you have to find exactly like that, John. You find that one thing and you go spend hours at it, just getting good at it and making it better. And
you need to be relentless. Yep.
Yeah, and that goes to any part of your business. Any part of your business that you're relentless at, that you kind of, stick into, you're going to do good at. So it's just a matter of looking at that business from the big picture and being able to break it all down. Guys, so let's, I want to be able to take a couple calls from a couple of you guys out there and kind of see how many pools you guys are doing and stuff like that. So on the app, what you can do is you can press one of the buttons for the chair, and then you'll be kind of jumping on. And I got the first one here, so we're going to do that. But right before we do that, what I want to do is, again, thank Ken from Ultimate Pool. And let's give him a minute here for thanking him.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision-crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools.
Hey guys, that officially is our first sponsor right there that we have. So thanks, Ken. I really appreciate you reaching out and kind of saying that you wanted to be part of the show. I know that when businesses start, you don't get a lot of people that jump in and kind of say, hey, we're with you. We're going to ride this out. And you've been awesome since day one. And even when I started doing the Instagram, you kind of reached out and you've been kind of, pushing me in some of those directions. So Dean, I saw that you were on there. Go ahead and press that button again. We're going to bring you on, guys. Let's bring a couple of the guys on and say hi. Hey, Dean, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey, we can. So, welcome to the first podcast, bud.
First of all, Edgar and Zac, great job. Who's the third guest you have on?
Right, I was going to say, wait for it.
No, seriously, guys, this is bringing a lot of value to the industry. You're doing a great job with this, and I think it's going to be a big hit once more people know about it. I have a question for you, Zac.
Yes.
So we know from your earlier live with Edgar that you charge an amount that's significantly higher than average, but of course you're bringing that value. How did you make that transition with your clients originally to bring your price up to what you thought your guys' value was?
So what I just started to notice, like as we were doing service, so as most people do, we used to charge extra for filter cleans. So I would watch every 6 months. So I would watch that and I would see that like, okay, it's time to do filter cleans and this customer forgot and they're upset because they're getting another charge. So people don't like to be upcharged. Or this customer said, I'm going to save some money this time and do it myself. I'll pass. And then it never got done. And then we ended up dealing with the problems. So that was the first thing that kind of clicked to me. That was like, what if I just roll the filter cleans into the monthly price and make it kind of an all-inclusive deal where it breaks down evenly from month to month. And so from that point, I really started to dig into like what we do to add value. Okay, we got office support Monday through Friday, that kind of thing. Okay, we're professionally dressed. Like just a vehicle that's marked, that is worth something and it comes at a cost. So I started kind of factoring these things into it, and I found the sweet spot to be at $220 plus tax per month. And honestly, since that live, I've talked to several people that have started thinking about doing this, and Salmon has done that. And now I'm more motivated than ever to like relook at my maintenance and think about, do we need to be charging more? Because some of you out there are pushing the envelope even higher than we did, which is making me look at it and consider, wait, maybe I'm not pushing it far enough.
Did you find you needed a specific type of client to do this that you were adding later, or did you go back to your previous clients and raise their prices?
So I was very scared. I thought this was going to be a big flop, and I was terrified of my current clients. They chose us and stuck with us, and I felt in a way that I'm penalizing them or something. So what we actually did was we just launched it from that point. Okay, this standard service that you're on, you stay on as we get this new program lined out. So we just started that from that day forward. Anyone who signed up, we don't have any other service than Total Care Weekly, and this is what we're rolling with. And it was so surprising to me because we got more interest than ever. Here I am scared that no one's going to be interested. They're going to slam the phone down as soon as we, talk to them about it. But it was like people were really receptive and they were really wanting that. And I think it's because it set that value perspective to them. Like, okay, sometimes when you pay more, you feel like you're getting more value. It's not always the case, but I pride ourselves on being able to deliver that value. So we went through it, and because we were including the filter cleans, we talked to our old customers when it was time to do the second filter cleaning of the year. And we said, hey guys, look, we're no longer offering this plan. This is what we're offering now. If you want to switch, this filter clean will be complimentary. And that's how we kicked it off with them. And if you think about it, that's a $10, we charge $130 for a filter clean. So the way I looked at it is I'm giving you $10 off a month for the next 13 months. So it's a nice transition.
Yeah, I think that's a huge, value issue to it there. And I'm going to bring Dean. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And thanks for coming on. I know that Mike was trying to call in, and Mike, if you are, call back in. There he is, because I want to talk to Mike, because Mike has done. Hey, Mike, can you hear us,
guys?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, Mike.
I'm doing well.
So, guys, this is Mike from Salmon
Shade.
From Salmon Pools out in San Diego, and it's kind of been neat to watch Mike's journey. Mike started charging, rates, when he first started at, $100, and after listening to the live with Zac, he kind of made that transition to really kind of go into that sales mode. And Mike's background is sales, and I think that has helped him a lot. Mike, I've learned a lot from you, even from the sales standpoint, because I'm not a sales guy. But you took that same thought process of doing an all-inclusive package in an area that everybody's charging, $85, $90, $100 a month. So, at what point did you make that transition and say, hey, I'm going to do what Zac's doing?
First, a big thank you to all three of you guys. You've all helped in your own ways. Edgar, since I met you back in February or March, we've spent countless hours on the phone messing each other. You've helped me with so many things. Big thank you. Zac and John, you guys, big inspiration on what you've done with your businesses. Kind of put a light for me at the end of the tunnel. And I just want to thank you for that.
Thank
you, brother.
Coming from a sales background, the whole time I never viewed it as a pool or a job. I viewed it as a relationship. And that's what it is. It's a relationship with the customer. So you have to view the pool that way. And when I talk to my customers, I use words like we. I'm a one-person customer, but when I say we, I'm talking about them and myself. I say our pool. I don't say your pool. It's our pool. I'm just involved in this as you are. I try to become part of that family, I guess, so to speak, to really build that relationship. And that's what adds to the value. There's two types of value. There's perceived value and there's added value. When Zac tells people, hey, you don't have to pay for these filter cleans twice a year, they're included. People go, oh, wow, that sounds great. I'm going to save money or whatever. It's easier. That's a perceived value. But then you have to have added value as well. And that's the little things that you do just to really lock yourself in and make yourself special to that customer. Little things that aren't even pool related, but if it's trash day and your garbage cans are by the street and they're empty, I take the 45 seconds to pull your cans back. I get my truck, I drive away. That customer's like, hey, did Mike do that? But maybe their neighbors saw me do that. That could lead to that neighbor going, hey, who's that guy helping with your trash cans? My pool guy barely keeps my pool clean. You could pick up a job from that.
Right.
Once you've got these little ways to provide value to the customers you have, it's going to give you that confidence to go and get the new customers. And go into what John said, it's all about knowledge. I got into pools because we bought a house with a pool. My wife worked from home. She's like, this guy doesn't even touch the water. So I paid someone $100 to teach me how to take care of pools. A year later, I took a CPO class, and I'm the stereotypical guy who bought a truck and started a pool company.
Nice.
I spent the last year and a half
Good for you.
learning about water, just water. I'm trying to learn repairs, and that's going to become my focus as this year finishes. And that's my main focus for 2021 is equipment and repairs. But for a year and a half, I've just dealt with the water. And I tell people that. I go, hey, I'm your water guy. I know everything about water. Something breaks, I got 3 people I can recommend. 3 guys that do the solar heating, 3 guys that do this, 3 guys that do that. And that's worked well for me. And then kind of going on a ramble now, but
no, that's great. And
Great story there, Mike.
And Mike, you're at a point where you're charging $175 a month.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find that sweet spot. So I'm 7 for 7. at 175.
Nice.
I'm 0 for 1 at 247. So
at 247.
so I didn't really want that pool. It was out of my way, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw this number, and if she takes it, she takes it. She didn't take it. Her previous guy was $80.
And this is where we're all different, right? Because my mentality is, and this is why I love talking to so many different guys, right? Is that's a perfect example. He goes from 175 and he's going to take that dive to 247. And you get to the point when you're trying to get customers that you have to find that sweet spot, and you have to lose some customers. You have to have some customers tell you that you're crazy, that you're trying to charge too much, right? Because if you go to the 200 and everybody's paying you at 200, then man, you've made that push. But your average person is going to go, I can't increase my rate, because if I increase my rate, people won't take my service. And that's the wrong mentality that we have in this industry. It's like, no, you have to push that envelope constantly.
Absolutely. Success is built on failures, right? And we've talked about this before. You get told no, or you try something, you fail. You don't give up, you keep going, and eventually you'll get to the top and you'll get to that success, and it's important to just keep driving and keep pushing that envelope so you can become more. The last thing you want to do in anything in life, especially business, is become complacent or satisfied with just good or good enough, and there's a small difference between good and excellent, and that's the guy or the girl that keeps chugging and keeps trying and keeps fighting and keeps failing and keeps getting kicked in the face, or to the point where they finally get to where they want, and somebody says yes, or somebody says you'll get that $247 a month client. And then from there, sky's the limit. So just keep chugging, Mike. That's a beautiful story, brother. Keep doing it.
I do have to add that I think my wife would appreciate if I found good enough at some point, but I don't know that I ever will. So.
Yeah. So, hey, Mike, thank you for that. And I honestly think, Mike has taken a great approach, and he'll call and he'll ask for advice and he'll try it, which is a big thing, right? I get sometimes some guys that'll call and ask for advice, and then they're kind of afraid to do it and afraid to make that jump. So, guys, we still have a couple more minutes. Anybody else that wants to call in, hit that button right there, and we'll kind of bring you in. So here's Marco. So let's bring Marco in and talk to him for a second. Hey, Marco, you're live. How are you?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Marco. How are you?
Good. Greetings from New York.
New York. You got to love it, man.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yes, so guys, and actually I'm in New York for work. And normally I live in Florida. I'm just started with the business like three months ago. And listen to John, what he was talking about. It was like very familiar to what's going through myself now, because I'm a professional tennis umpire, and I'm in the U.S. Open working now. Mm-hmm. But I just started with all the pandemic thing, without all this time off. I started the business. I bought a route of 16 pools, right? But I started, as John says, I was getting into the business, like reading and looking for information. So I felt like prepared theoretically. Yeah. I was started like three months ago, right? But I'm in that process that I'm still doing what I'm doing. Actually, I'm out of home now on the route. My wife is taking care of the route with our close friend that is working like handily. She's been involved in gathering all the information and trying to be ready and working, putting her hand on the pool, right? Yeah. So I'm in that situation that probably John went to. Like, I'm still doing what I'm doing, but the route is still, it's working. And this moment, I'm like, a little afraid because I'm not there. And I'm like, freak out. My wife called me this morning and told me, hey, listen, this is happening here. Right. And, the situation that oh my God, I mean, what these people is going to say that I'm not there. It's my wife taking care of it. We cannot solve the situation. But I think it's part of all the learning process. And actually for her, she's been facing some, important situation that she learned from that, not only from reading, right? Yeah. But okay, my question will be now, we started buying that route. We've added 2 pools to that route, but it's been more like one was referral from one of our friends that didn't want one of the pool, and the other one was a close person that we told them, hey, we started with business, and they told us, okay, come back with us, we're family, whatever. But now my question for you guys would be, what would be the best way to start getting more pools. It's an easy one to buy routes, right? But it's expensive. But we see that, okay, we would like to start getting, let's start getting 3 pools per month at least. How do we get to the point? What would be the easiest way? If we still have to be thinking about buying routes because we're small, or what would you have to say about that?
So if I could add on that, okay. So there's no exact science on what's going to be easiest, but my thought on it is that you want a solid foundation to market on, if that makes sense. So I would say make sure all your social platforms are solid with your correct information, with correct images of you and your family and your wife helping out, because people want to relate to that. They like that family touch. And make sure you have a good website, somewhere to land these people. Put the time in to explain your services, what they are, what all they entail, what the prices are. And then from there, something very inexpensive that I found successful is Facebook advertising, paid advertising through Facebook. And you can get very dialed in. If you just want to do one zip code, you can advertise to one zip code, but it's all about having somewhere to send that person. You can't just wave your hands and say, hey, I'm Marco, I'm here, come choose me for pool service. You want to grab them and then pull them into your website or your social or wherever you send them to capture that person. And buying routes is probably, in all honesty, going to be the fastest way, but you have to keep in mind, from the routes I see, none of them are ever at a rate that I would charge. So as much as I would love to buy a route, I can't do it because I don't know how I'm going to buy a route and then bring all those people up to my rate because they're already conditioned that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Marco, we're gonna continue to answer your question here and bring on one of the guys from Florida, Jeff, in a second. But I think the biggest thing that you have to do, guys, is it's all about planning. You kind of have to put, and then we talked about this on our last live, Zach, that I think he's got a great approach, which is how are we going to grow this business? And I think it's going to be very important for you right now to sit down. And even with what Zach said is, create that website, right? Give everybody a landing page. But you have to put a little bit of a plan together and have like a 2 or 3 step approach. So create that website, give them a landing spot. If you don't have a lot of money, you might need to, Google and see where the addresses are for pools and go leave flyers and go leave, door hangers. And, you really kind of have to make that push. We all want people to refer us to other people, but I think that tends to take a little bit longer, and you don't really rely on something that you can kind of track and say, they referred me because of this, this, and this, right?
Right.
To where when you have an advertising, you can see which one of those ads is working. So you really need to kind of create a plan and figure out obviously what that budget is going to be and how to be able to put an action plan into each one of those to grow your business. So guys, I saw 2 guys, Jeff from Pool Care Miami. I know you were trying to call in, hit that there swim pool as well. So what tends to happen is it kind of rings for just a little bit and then it drops it off. So excuse me. So if you guys are out there, just kind of hit that button and we'll bring you guys on here for a couple more minutes. Here's Jeff. Let's bring Jeff on here.
What's going on, guys? It's nice.
What's up, Jeff?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, Jeff. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. I just wanted to, I know you guys have been getting thank yous like crazy, but I've been in the pool industry I don't know, maybe 8 years, and my uncle has done it for a little over 40. So I kind of learned from him. So I didn't really necessarily have some of the struggle.
Oh, I think we're losing Jeff a little bit there in that contact. So, but hopefully we can bring him here back. Let's see if we can kind of catch that and get him on back here. So, guys, we're kind of at the hour point. We're going to make these podcasts kind of an hour and try to do this. I love answering questions. I think we had some great questions asked today. And let's see if we can kind of get Jeff, and we'll kind of go from there. And let's one more time bring up and thank the Ultimate Pool Pulse. So let's let's give Jeff maybe another minute here and see if we can bring him on, and we'll try to go from there. In the meantime, let's thank the Ultimate Pool Pole.
The sound of you continually pitching pool care poles into the trash. The sound of you using an Ultimate Pool Tools carbon fiber pool care pole for years to come. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools.
John, any parting words for our first show today, for our first podcast?
So I think we did well. What do you think?
To me, the one thing I love about this is just interacting with other pool guys and being able to kind of connect out there and give them advice. And I think when I was in that journey, sometimes I just needed a little bit of encouragement. I just needed somebody to do the pool talk with, to kind of feel good. Of course, now you're probably like me, and Mama, if you're listening, my wife is one that says, "Oh my God, you will talk pool all day. You'll go work in pools. You come home, and I think you're the only guy that can talk pool talk until it's time to go to work again. You just don't stop,
Oh, so, for sure. Well, for me, it's the same thing too. I went, for years starting off in the pool industry where I craved and I wanted somebody to talk to, and I didn't have anybody to talk to. And now this, especially the last year and a half, it's kind of just the whole industry is changing, and for good. Where people are becoming more inclusive instead of exclusive, right? Where people aren't as guarded. I went and I tried speaking to everybody I possibly could, and everybody looked at me like as if I was crazy. And no, I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing or how I'm doing this, or what I mean? You're my competition. Where I'm like, well, hey, we need to help everybody out so we can kind of get to, so we better this industry. I talk, we talk about prices and what we charge, and I charge much more than anybody else out here in the Valley. And I'm preaching at SCP, talking to everybody saying, hey, look, guys, raise your prices. We need to do more. We need to do this. We need to do that, because I want you to be more successful. So when you add that value and you make more money, now I can turn around, kind of going back to what Zach said. And now I can charge more money because I'm going to try to be another step up above what the average guy is, or what the best is out here. And just being able to just talk to people is like, it's like, oh my God, I found somebody who has my hobby, right? And that I can actually talk to, and who knows what I'm going through every single day, because, what a pool guy and gal goes through, it's tough. It's not easy work, and the frustrations that we have to deal with, and not having anybody to vent to, or not have anybody to ask these questions to is disheartening and frustrating. And to be able to have this podcast, or be able to talk to you, or Instagram and stuff, and all these little channels and outlets, I think it's a blessing in disguise, and it's gonna help a lot of people out there. I wish this was here when I first started. That's for sure.
I agree, and I think that's obviously our big goal, and one of the reasons I love having you guys on is because you do have that passion for what we want to do, and for helping that pool guy, that new pool guy. So,
and I love hearing everyone else's stuff, because I'm constantly listening and gathering and learning from everybody else, and it's like now I'm sitting here thinking like, hey, do I need to have my guys start taking trash cans back up to the house?
I love that.
So I just love listening to everyone else's stories, and it helps me learn how we can be better.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, guys. So this is going to be the end of our first podcast. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it, and we will be here every Friday, and we'll be talking and doing that pool talk. So thanks everybody for listening, and we will catch you all next Friday.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks guys. Zach, we'll talk to you later.
Friday.
John, we'll talk soon. Bye guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, or Instagram at pool.nation.